Cricket Life Stories with me, Neil Kagram. Today we're joined by Josh Knappett, former Worcester first class keeper. He's going to give us some wicket keeping tips, drills for all. Josh, take it away.
Brilliant. So what I want to do is, where there's a lot of information about batting and bowling, there's a lot less information around wicket keeping. So I want to just give 3 or 4 points for stood up, 3 or 4 points for stood back, a couple of really basic drills that young wicket keepers can do that's going to help them improve their skills. So first of all, the stance. So if we have a quick look at some basic technique for stance, we're looking to be far enough away from the stumps that when we go into our squat and when we go into our catch, that we're not breaking the front line. So I'm going to be around about here where I squat down and my hands just rest behind the stumps. Remember that any part of your glove or equipment passing the line, passing the bowling crease line, when the ball is in play, it becomes a no ball. So for me, from a technical perspective, whether your feet are close or wide in your stance, you want your head nice and tight to the line of the stumps, but still be able to see the ball. Our squat position or our stance or our crouch, whatever you call it, is effectively a position of rest. This is the position that we're in as the bowler is running up. This isn't necessarily a position to move from. So if you're comfortable taking a squat position, then you can do that. However, you look at a lot of keepers nowadays, they tend to be a bit wider and their squat is a little bit more like this. This squat position is a harder one to maintain, but if you're strong and fit, it's definitely a positive position to be in. This squat / resting position is also a very dynamic one for which we can move from. So from here I can power to my right, to my left, I can stay low to catch low balls, and I can stand up or rotate to put my hands in the best position to catch the ball. So what we're going to look to demonstrate here is just how we would take a really normal outside off good length delivery, how we would take a ball that's slightly wider, and how we would take a ball that would be slightly higher. So first of all, we're into our stance, we're into our set. Okay, so from here I'm going to look to just sit up slightly just before the ball's let go of, because that's going to be a position that I'm going to power out of to take the rest of my catch. What I'm looking to do is to have my hands in the best position to catch it. So I'm probably going to have to move my body sometimes to allow myself to catch it as straight underneath my chest as possible. As soon as I start to go slightly wider, I'm on the edge of being in control, and sometimes it's a bit harder to present my full face of the glove to the ball to catch. So that one's a really good example of when it's a bit wider. That ball's kind of belly button height, nice and wide. I couldn't have just thrown my gloves there without moving my body, because I would have compromised my catching position. By pushing my weight to the ball, turning ever so slightly, it's allowed me to present really good hands to the ball. So I can catch it, and from here, I've still got my left foot nice and close to the stumps. If I needed to come back for the stumping, then I can do. When that ball is wider, I'm going to try and take my body weight towards the ball. Sometimes I've got to rotate my shoulders and hips to allow myself to keep in a catching position. My shoulders and hips stay square, I'm going to get a bit restricted and it's going to be a bit uncomfortable. I might catch some balls, but I'm going to be in a lot more control if I open up and allow that access to catch it in a powerful position. So a really common question: how do you take balls down the leg side? For me, there are 2 things we're looking to do. First of all, get as much information as with the ball travelling down the wicket as we can do, with our head having an undisrupted view. So what that means is keeping our head on the offside, watching that ball and getting as much information as we can do before the ball bounces. Then at the very last minute, when you've gathered all the information you need to gather to know roughly where that ball is going to be, then we want to power across to that line. The way that we'd look to do that from a technical position is our inside foot, so the foot that's nearest to the stumps, is going to take our body and our hands, and then I'm going to click my feet across. I'm going to end up down the leg side to catch the ball with a better sight to take it back to the stumps. So our final way of training and developing our skills will be things like these catch it ramps. Add some challenge, add some pressure, and some natural variation that puts you as a training wicketkeeper in a better position. Okay, so all we're going to look at here to finish off is a couple of methods for standing back. There's lots of different talk about different ways of doing this, but here is a couple of pointers from a technical position that might be important for you. First of all, I want to get my hands in the best position to catch a normal ball. So the way I do that is by judging how far back I need to stand. So the first thing is a good length ball on the wicket that you're playing on that day should be coming to around about knee to mid thigh height. Finally, the other reason for our position being so important is that governs where our slip fielders stand. So if I'm too far back, my slips are too far back, the edges fall short. So now we know how far back to stand. Where we stand with our line is again the next important part of setting our stance. We want to think at where the bowler is aiming the ball, what type of delivery would they normally bowl, and where would that ball normally finish off. So what you're looking for there is for your hands and your head to be in line for the majority of balls you catch. If it's slightly wider and I can't physically get my head onto line, or if it's a bit high and if my head was there I get cramped, I want to try and get my head to the best line of that ball. If I need a bit of space to rotate, fine, but otherwise I want to get my middle of my body to the ball the best I can. Again, everyone will have their own preference of the way they catch, whether they're happy reverse cupping a lower delivery or whether they try to turn their hands more frequently. Some people prefer to catch the ball on the inside of their body, some people more on the midline of their body, and some people will prefer to catch it. That's your preference. Find what way works best for you in not only the majority of deliveries, but also when that outside edge and that challenge gets presented. You may have noticed that my stance and my setup position is slightly different for being stood back than it was when we were up at the stumps a few moments ago. The reason why is I don't need to take a stumping. Quite simply, when I'm up to the stumps, the balls are going to be a lot lower, I have a lot less time, and I don't have to come back to the stumps. So all I look to do, again from a personal perspective, is we're looking to be powerful, we're looking to be dynamic, but we can have a lot more flow and freedom in our catch. So our setup position is going to put me in a powerful position from the very beginning. I don't have to be in a resting position, I can be a bit more upright. You look at someone like Tendulkar, he spends a lot more time upright. He knows that his role is a bit more about diving. He knows that his role as a wicketkeeper stood back is he has a lot more time to move. Other wicket keepers may get into a set position, a resting position that's somewhere like this where their hips are slightly lower. So from this position here, my rhythm, my sequence would be just to touch the floor to make sure I'm in the same position every time. If I don't touch the floor, then sometimes I might be lazy and be a bit more upright. Other times I may get a bit too into it and get a bit too low and a bit too stuck. So by just touching the floor, I know where my body is, I know where my feeling needs to be, and from here I'm in a powerful position to move right and left.